We are joined today by Avi Kedem with Israeli Aerospace Industries to talk about knowledge continuity and how Israeli Aerospace created a structured process to preserve critical knowledge from retiring workers. Avi, you started the program in 2008. What was the event or process that led to the realization losing critical knowledge was a problem?
Actually, it was the other way around. I didn't do knowledge management say 12 years ago. I did other things. And when I realized, just by reading articles, the baby boomer phenomena is going to be a disaster to the knowledge base our company leans on. I understood that knowledge management is the right thing or the right tool to tackle the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, let's do more knowledge management because there is here a big challenge.
Yeah. What was it difficult to align the KM goal of retaining knowledge with the business goals in the organization?
We need to remember that Israel Aerospace Industries is not a products company like, say, Microsoft. Mm-hmm. It is a projects company. A projects company, the main asset is knowledge, not the machines. You start a new company. If you would start tomorrow a new aerospace company, you can buy all the same machines. Can you do this, build the same projects? Of course not, because it's our experts on who are the main asset of the organization. So keeping this knowledge in the company is essential to our business, to our future business.
Yeah. One of the keys to the success you've had is being able to identify the 5% of knowledge that creates the 75% of the benefits in KM. How'd you do
it? First of all, it's not obvious, this 75% idea. In my presentations, I always ask the audience, if you could, no time, no money, capture 100%, would you do that? And usually people say, oh yes, of course, 100%. And of course, there are here two mistakes. One is some of the knowledge is already obsolete. Mm-hmm. And two, let's remember, there are people who need to read this. These people don't have a lot of time and not a lot of patience. Mm-hmm. So it needs to be very concise. I mean, and everything needs to be very user-friendly to make it easy to access and make people read it and use it. This is why we do the knowledge capturing. So it led me to the idea that we need to find the 5%, which is the most critical, identify it, and just capture that part of the whole body of knowledge. Mm-hmm. One of the most important stages in our process is mapping the knowledge. We write down the various processes, technologies, other subjects, which the experts or the living expert are working on. And for each of them, we write down who is the expert. Sometimes it's not necessarily the living expert. Maybe for one or two topics, he goes to somebody else. So we know who has a know-how. Now, is it documented or not? In some cases, yes, it's documented. What are the documents? Oh, they are over there, scattered around. So then we ask ourselves, okay, what in this list is critical? And then we ask ourselves, and then we have a list of critical things, but you don't have time to capture all these critical things. So we ask ourselves, what is the most easiest to document? Mm-hmm. Let's start there. Mm-hmm. Using these criteria, you go down and down and down until you find your 5%.
Mm-hmm. So everybody talks about documenting tacit knowledge. It's important, and it can be critically important. It's really hard to do, though, sometimes. So what have you done to make sure your documentation is successful and easy for people to use repeatedly?
As surprising or funny, if you like, it might sound, templates. First, let's remember that usually, in our case at least, we are talking about engineers. Engineers don't like documenting. So once you build it within the KM consultant who is facilitating the process and the expert, build for each type of knowledge or each type of process, each type of technology, a template.
Yeah.
It's easier to write down your tacit knowledge concerning each of these issues if you write into a template. This is one aspect. Second aspect is it's easier to find, when you read it, to find what you need when you have a standard template. Then you know that it always will, what you're looking for will appear in a specific place. So it helps user-friendliness as well.
At Israeli Aerospace, there is a focus on building user-friendly performance support knowledge-based sites. But what is the biggest challenge in building something that you know people would use to share knowledge and it's going to work?
First, the most essential knowledge assets, the main ones, will be very easy to find in this site or performance support knowledge base. And second, it sometimes even includes information which people might say, okay, what's the big deal? Like the list of the contacts. But this is a very important asset because once somebody leaves, knowing who were the experts or the suppliers he was working with, and who in this suppliers organization is the expert we are supposed to talk with, is very important. A part of all that, we sometimes include job aids, or if you like, you can call it EPSS, Electronic Performance Support System, which make, for example, using the calculations which are relevant in this specific case, very easy, as the Excel is there, just put in the parameters and you get the bottom line. So if you use all these tactics, and a part of that, it happens sometimes that a division, not only a department, has a very good culture of sharing knowledge. And in that case, you can build a knowledge base for all the division, and like having sub sites where the specific know-how will be, so that everybody in the division can share the knowledge. Unfortunately, it's not always the case. Sometimes we go one step forward so that not the expert is not a silo by himself, but maybe his department still is a silo. So we need sometimes to compromise. Otherwise, people will not participate.
Now, one of the interesting things you have done is focus on using the same process of sharing knowledge for existing teams of experts. How hard is it to get everybody to use and trust the same process when it comes to sharing knowledge?
If I may, the challenge here is not transferring the process from one case to the second case. Working with a team is less easy. Because you know, when you work with one expert, then once you get his participation and the next expert, the future expert, is willing to learn and wants to learn and is participating as well, okay, then you have two people. Once you have a team, everybody needs to participate, to agree, to give the process time. So here the challenge is a bit more tough.
Yeah. For an organization needing to capture knowledge from retiring experts, what is the one mistake they need to avoid making to have a successful program?
When I talk with various companies, usually I find that for knowledge retention and transfer, they do only tacit-to-tacit, like mentoring processes, which is, of course, fine and it needs to be there for sure. But it's not enough. At least for the critical experts, looking at the critical knowledge they have. This focused area of knowledge needs to be captured in a structured process so that tangible knowledge assets will be there in a site which is accessible to everybody. As when you do it only tacit to tacit, and the expert, for example, gets promoted after a year, then the knowledge went away, and you need to start the process from the beginning.
Yeah, so what is the key way to measure if a company is retaining the critical knowledge of their retiring experts and their program is working?
Actually, I love this question, and I'll tell you why. Because when my boss, the vice president for R&D, asked me this question, and he asked me, how do you know that the budget we are giving you has any benefit for the company? I told him, you know, I can build an ROI, return on investment, Excel sheet for you, but I can manipulate it any way I want. If I would be you, I wouldn't trust this document. But a business manager is very sharp knowing what supports his future business, because he is measured by the company. He can't afford doing mistakes like investing in knowledge capturing, which takes time and budget, and then he'll get nothing. So once we've done a project with this person, and with his top people, his experts, if he comes back to us and asks, Avi, let's do one more project. I have a lot of benefit from the previous one. Then I know that this returning customer, he knows better than me what is good for him.
Mm-hmm. So, Avi Kedem, Israeli Aerospace, thanks for joining us.